He's written articles for American Woodturner magazine through the AAW. He's demonstrated at the national symposia quite a few times and a lot of regional symposiums. And he's very well known for his basket illusions that he creates on hollow forms, on bowls, on plates, platters. And so this was a tool handles, if you didn't see these earlier. So he is a great piggyback to Kevin Jesquill's demonstration we had a couple months ago where he taught how to do a hollow form. Now this is taking it to a whole nother level of adding additional embellishments and taking kind of inspiration from, Native American pottery and stuff like that and adding it to your wood turned pieces. So I will leave it for you. Good luck.
Okay. Am I on? Yeah? Okay, good. Thank you for having me here. I don't know how many times I've demoed for this club. Probably, I don't know, some of you that have been around a while, 4 or 5 times maybe. I don't know, something like that. But it's always a joy to come down. Well, it's not always a joy to come to Denver, but it's always a joy to come to this club and demo for you people. I do have the shield here, so if you're throwing stuff at me, I can duck behind it. Uh, keeping most of my life was spent in the 1900s, so you have to be a little patient with me and be nice to me because, I first started turning back in probably is either 1967 or 68, before a lot of you here were even born. Um, enjoyed it. I still have one of the first projects I turned when I was in high school. It's a little 4 level plant stand that I turned the legs and the spindles and put little platforms on it. That was in my mother or in my folks' living room until they both passed, and now it sits in our dining room, and it still has plants on it. Um, and then I pursued it in college as well. Uh, went to University of Northern Iowa, got a degree in industrial tech education. Taught several places. Taught in Northern Iowa for a while. I taught at CSU for a little while. I went down to New Mexico for a couple of years, and then I took a sabbatical. Most teachers take about a year sabbatical or whatever. Mine was 12 and a half years. Um, and then I got a call from Loveland High School saying they wanted to hire me for a position there. And so I took that job and was there for 21 years until I retired in 2014. When I retired at 2014, our club meets at the local woodcraft store up in Loveland. And I was there. I don't know if I was president at the time or what. I don't think so. I think I was just standing there. And the owner of the woodcraft store, he's going like this. He goes, "Come here." I go, "What?" He goes, "Okay." He goes, "I understand you finally retired, which is cool." He goes, "I understand as a teacher, you think you get your summers off." He goes, "You get this summer off because next fall you will be here at Woodcraft working for me and teaching my wood turning classes." So I've been at Woodcraft now for a little over 10 years, 11 years now, and teaching the wood turning classes there and working in the store. I am weeding myself off a bit. I'm only working about 2 days a week now. Um, and I'm doing wood turning the rest of the time. I'm in a couple galleries. I'm in a gallery in Santa Fe and one in Sedona, Arizona, and keeping up with them. But it's fun to turn. It's good to have uh, new people. How many new turners do we have here? Like turn less than a year or so. Okay, good. Good to have you here. How many old timers that have been here turning for 50 years like me? Anybody? No one will admit it, at least. Yeah. We're at a club meeting. Yeah, we're either at a club meeting or it's our Christmas party, and we're talking about how long we've been turning. And I made the mistake of telling the group that I started turning back in the late 60s. And Trent Bosch, who's in our club, he looks at me, he goes, "God, you'd think you'd be better by now." But so you have to be careful on how you address a group. Okay. And yes, I probably should be better by now. But Okay. What we're turning tonight is going to be some small hollow forms. Then we're going to show you how to do the beading on them and how to do the coloring on them and all that kind of stuff. The reason I have all this stuff laid out here is to point out to you one of the pitfalls of doing hollow form turning. Because depending on what size of turnings you do, determines the size of tools you use. Okay. If you're if you're just doing little stuff like this, you can get by with tools like this. This I would not even use on a piece this big because it'll vibrate too much and all that, and you're not going to get a clean cut. Then you need to go up to the next size, or this one's actually kind of in between. And then you go to the next size, and the next size, and the next size, and up, and up, and up. And I did not bring my big turning tool, which is 2-inch diameter steel bars that are welded together with a tip on the end that's about 4 feet long. That's for really big stuff. Okay. Um, so it all kind of depends on, and by the way, too, in this case here, there's some spares. Um, so you getting gathering a lot of tools. Okay. And then you need different size calipers too to get in and measure smaller pieces, bigger pieces, bigger still pieces, really big pieces, you know, like that. So I had one of my coworkers at Woodcraft ask me, this was several years ago, this is probably 5 years ago. He said, "How many turning tools do you have?" And at the time, I really didn't know. I probably didn't want to know. So I said, I don't know. So I did go home and I started counting. Well, I quit at 100 and I was close to the end, but there were still some shoved into cubby holes and stuff like that, like Swedish hook tools and things like that. Because I'm like any of you, I go to meetings like this and stuff, and the guy is working and he's just using this tool and it's just working really good. So what do? You go and buy one. Then you find out as soon as you turn your lathe on that it's really not the tool that was working so well. It was that guy that had a hold of it, making it look easy. So um, that's one of the pitfalls of hollow forms. Okay, and I have turned some hollow forms that have been up to 16 inches tall. I've turned some that have been 20 inches in diameter. I don't do those very often anymore, but that's it. Okay. Oh, here's another one too. Uh, you would know Doc Thode. You remember Doc Thode, don't you, Rick? Yeah. Doc Thode was a member of our club years and years ago. Hello? Hello? Testing, testing. You never close it. he had two he had two files that were screwed together with a hinge, and so when it was spinning on the lathe, he'd just take those two files and he'd kind of squeeze them together and go like this and make the cylinders from those spindles. Well, Dale Nish happened to be looking in on that demo that time, and he's watching Thode do that, and he walks out shaking his head. He goes, he just put wood turning back 200 years. So, so we're not going to be using these tonight, but I, yeah, all of these tools are from Trent Bosch. I think Trent makes as good of hollowing tools as anybody's. I've got the 1/2 inch, the 5/8, 3/4, the 1 inch. He is going to be making 3/8 tools. He has promised me this. I've been bugging him for 15 years, and he's going to make some 3/8 tools and all that kind of stuff. We're also going to be doing some beadwork. Oh, the little ones are made by his son-in-law, Laurent Niclot. Little tiny ones and a little bit bigger ones. Hollowing tools are hard to find right now. Um, you know, I think they have a better selection up here than we do at Woodcraft, but it's hard to find good hollowing tools. These are Robert Sorby's, and they're good. We're going to be doing some beading tonight as well. When I first started out, I was using the Sorby beading tools, which are a scraping style beading tool, whereas the others are shear style tools. Um, if you ever, you know, have time or want to take time and stuff, I did 2 demos for our club up in Fort Collins on using beading tools, and they're on YouTube and all that kind of stuff. Basically, you just type in my name, Doug Schneiter, or you type in Basket Illusion, whatever, and it comes up with them. The first one is on using Sorby tools. The second one is on using the D-Way tools, different techniques and all that kind of stuff. Last time I looked, I haven't looked for 6 months, but I think they're both like at, I don't know, like 300,000 views or something. So either there's a lot of people who want to learn how to do basket illusion, or else there's a lot of slow learners out there that have watched the videos a lot of times. Um, well, the reason I did the handles, I get a lot of comments on the handles and all that. And the reason I did that the way I did it is they sit in a rack next to my lathe like this. And I know I use that tool to make that handle and that tool to make that handle. So I know that this one is my 3/16. This one's my 3/32. This one's my 1/8 inch, you know, and all that. So it keeps me from grabbing the wrong ones and all that. But these are D-Way tools. I do have a bunch of D-Way tools with me too, if anybody wants beading tools at the end of the night. This one is Ashley Isles. I like the Ashley Isles tool as well. One thing about Ashley Isles, you look at the thinness of the blade here compared to this one. You get a little more vibration from it, but I like the shape of the flute a little better, so it's kind of a toss-up. There is I've been working with David Carter from Carter and Sons. Talked to me last year at the AAW symposium, I think it was. Might have been at SWAT. No, it was at AAW. And I've been working with David and Paul in the design and development of a new set of beading tools from Carter and Son that will be released to the public, hopefully at AAW. And there's a full set, 1/8 inch, 3/16, quarter, 3/8. He's going to come out with a new 1/2 inch one and all that. And basically, the difference in these is number one, they're bigger, more metal, takes away the vibration, takes away the chattering and all that kind of stuff. Also, instead of a sharp edge here that rides on your tool rest and dings your tool rest, these have a flat edge on top, so they glide a little better and all that kind of stuff. Plus, it leaves a little wider space between the beads, so it's easier to burn them and all that kind of stuff. So be on the lookout for the new, I guess, Doug Schneider signature beating tools from Dave Carter. So whatever. That and $1 will get me a cup of coffee. I don't drink coffee anyway. Darn it. Yeah, but these he has this one, as far as I know, is the only one in existence. This was the prototype for the 1/8 inch, and then once he sent it to me and I started using it and stuff, he goes, yeah, he goes, we decide we're going to start making the 1/8 inch out of 5/8 bar stock as well, so that it stops at a certain point and all that. So this might be the only one out of 1/2 inch bar stock. I don't know. So, but I've been working with David and we're making some beating tools. Okay. First thing I'm going to do. How many of you have seen me do a demonstration before? Wow. Okay. I'll try and keep you entertained. First thing I do when I come, especially to a Powermatic lathe, hate these tool rests. I hate cast iron tool rests in general, and I really don't like the Powermatics because they're just so big and clunky, and they get divots in them and all that kind of stuff. You guys do have a robust here. Still not my preferred one. These are a tool rest made by a friend of mine, Steve Center, out of Quad Cities, Iowa. Steve's, compared to the robust, they have a 3/8 bar, round bar on top as opposed to a 1/4 inch. The profile of them really allows me to drop that tool at a much sharper angle, whether I'm doing a shear cut with a gouge or whether doing a beating with the beating tool, than I can get with the robust. I during I just like using these, and Steve's a really nice guy too, so I like supporting him. I needed to get one of these tool rests one year because I was getting ready to demo at Utah Symposium, and I needed a 14-inch one. And so I called Steve up and I said, yeah, Steve, I need a 14-inch tool rest for Utah. He goes, could you send me one? He goes, oh, yeah, you're doing that symposium, aren't you? And I go, yeah. He goes, oh, he goes, you're still teaching classes in Colorado too, aren't you? And I go, yeah, I am. And he goes, that's where that came from. I go, what's that? He goes, well, I had a guy call me the other day, a couple weeks ago, and he goes, he'd taken a wood turning class from a guy at Woodcraft in Colorado, and he recommended my tool rests, said they were the best ones on the market and all that. And I said, well, that was me, because I said, I do recommend your tool rests. I think they're really good and all that. He goes, yeah. He goes, he ended up ordering a 4-inch, a 6-inch, a 9-inch, a 12-inch, a 14-inch, a 16-inch, an 18-inch, and a 22-inch. He he bought 8 tool rests in one shot, and he goes, that 14 you want? He goes, that'll be in the mail tomorrow. There won't be any charge on that one. And I go, okay. So I have changed my recommendation though. You don't have to get them all, okay? At least not at one shot. I don't even have them all. I have 5, I think. I have a 6, a 9, a 12, a 14, and a 16. So you don't get them all, but if you are looking for a good tool rest, they are a good tool rest. Okay. We're going to do this. Okay. We're going to start off doing a little hollow form. I got a couple pieces here. All I did was just mark my diagonals. I just went corner to corner to find the center of my pieces, mark the center with a scratch awl. If you're turning pieces for Christmas ornaments or something like that you want to have hanging on a tree and want to have them colored, you want to start with a fairly light piece of wood, both in color and in weight, because you don't want it tipping the tree over or whatever. These happen to be some sycamore. Sycamore's okay. Soft maple's okay. Holly. if you have a bunch of holly, go for it and all that kind of stuff. Um, one thing I did, and I haven't done it yet, but it's on my list of things to do, is at Woodcraft we have carving woods and stuff. I bought a piece of 4x4 by 12-inch piece of balsa, and my challenge before this summer's over is I'm going to turn a hollow form out of balsa wood, or at least I'm going to try. I think what I'm going to do, I'm thinking I'm going to have to hollow it out first and then shape the outside. I'm not sure. We'll see. And I've been called crazy before, but oh well. Oh, here's my here's my mallet, or one of my mallets. Yes, it's all beaded. Yes, I do use it every day. And yes, I whack on it pretty hard. Um, you know, I like the grip it gives me. Um, let's see, what box is it in? Pass that around. I just like the grip that feels in your hand and all that kind of stuff. Works pretty good. So if you want to make handles, they're pretty easy. Oh, I'm a big disciple of sweatback bowl gouges. Okay. I have several. I have many. Um, different brands, different kinds, but they're all parabolic flutes and they're all sweatback grinds. Um, 'Cause I like what I can do with them. I do 90% of all my turning with a sweatback bowl gouge. If I turn a pen, which I don't turn many, when I turn a pen, I use a 5/8 sweatback bowl gouge. Okay. I've had people say, you can't turn a pen. Yeah, I can. I can turn a pen about 3.5 minutes if I'm feeling good, and all that, and do it all with that gouge. Okay. I can do, when I'm doing my platters, and while your business meeting was going on, I was doing a little bit of coloring. So I've got some pieces I need to get. Yeah, what the heck? You can pass that around too. It's only wood. Um, I use a bow gouge for 98% of all the turning on it, except for the beadwork. Um, it's just what I use. It's my favorite tool. I could get by, unlike the hollowing tools where I have 50 of them because of different sizes. I can use a 5/8 bowl gouge for 90% of all my turning. So that's it. When I'm at home, I typically wear a full helmet shield, the fast cap one, whatever it's called, fast cap from um, who is it? I don't know, somebody, but it's good. I'll use this tonight. Um, I think, am I getting too much feedback on the mic and stuff? It's okay. The problem with the fast cap one is it's hard to blow the shavings off the end of the tool. This one will be a little bit easier. Okay, this is my favorite gouge. I have about 9 or 10 5/8 bowl gouges, different kinds. This one's my favorite. This is the gouge made by Robust. I like the way it cuts. I like the way it sharpens. I like the way it feels and all that kind of stuff. I brought a couple spares, so I don't want to have to sharpen tools. Now, my lathes at home, I turn on Vic marks. Typically, I turn on a VL300. It does not have a tachometer on it, so I go by feel and all that kind of stuff. So Pretty good. We're almost round. We are round. Okay. Oh, one little flat spot right there. No, it isn't. It's just grain in the wood. We'll smooth this up a little bit. Not that it matters, because we're going to shape it anyway. Ooh. I'm just doing a shear cut. Drop the handle way down. So long as this cutting edge is at about 60 degrees or 45 degrees, it's going to give you a very nice cut. Okay. Um, I do tell this story once in a while, and I've probably told it to this group before, but I'll tell it again. I was doing a demo a couple of years ago for the club way down south, the club in Pueblo. And they're a great club to work with and stuff too, kind of a small club, but a good club. I was getting ready to demo, and I had everything set up and had all my stuff set up and all this kind of stuff. And it was about 10 minutes before the meeting started, or 5 minutes. And Lois was the vice president in charge of getting me there. She was president, I think, or something. She goes, "Okay, Doug." She goes, "I have good news and bad news." They had just moved into a new facility. Just moved into a new meeting room. She goes, "I have good news and bad news." I go, "Okay, hit me with the good news." "Well, the good news is we're really excited to have you here, and we're really looking forward to your meeting and all that kind of stuff." I go, "Okay, hit me with the bad news." "You can't use the lathe tonight. We can't plug it in." So it's like, okay. So I ended up, actually I was doing my demo on the basket illusion dishes, the little bowls and stuff. And so what I would do is I would I had it in like 4 different stages, and I'd tell them what I would be doing at this point in time. Okay, we're going to shape the outside of this bowl first. Then I'm going to get my beating tool, and I'm just going to beat it like so, and all that. Then we're going to flip it around. We're going to do this and all that. And I talked my way through an hour and a half. And at the end of the demo, I had people come up and they go, "That was actually one of the best demos we've ever had, because you actually took time to tell us what you were doing, because so many demonstrators get so wound up in their turning that they forget they have an audience that doesn't know what they're doing and all that kind of stuff." The ironic part of the story is, the funny part of the story is the building that they had moved into for their meetings was the local IBEW, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. No one had checked to see that the lathe had a 4-prong plug and the wall outlet had a 3-prong outlet for it. And it's like, okay, somebody maybe should have checked that out eventually. So I always use that kind of a joke. Nothing against Pueblo Club, because they're good, and I've been down there a couple times since demoing anyway. So okay, they can turn their lathe on. Have you been down there? Yeah. We're just going to put a little tenon on this. Pretty close. I'm not touching the wood with the calipers. I've got a little bit of corner in there that's rounded over. I don't want that. That angle has to be very sharp. It has to be less than 90 degrees so that chuck jaws will grab that. What I use is I have a 1/2 inch skew that is ground at the angle of my chuck jaws. So all I'm going to do is, and we're done. Okay. A couple of years ago at AEW, I was getting ready for one of my demos, and happened to walk past Stuart Batty's um, setup, and I've known Stewie for 20 years, and he's telling his people, he's telling them the beauty of a 40/40 grind gouge and all this. He goes, "Yeah," he goes, "40/40 grind gouge, you can cut that tenon and all that." He goes, that's the only tool that you can do that with. You can't do that with the sweat background gouge and all that. So it's like, you know what? I need to check that out. So during my demo, I went and cut the whole tenon with sweat back gouge. Like, I thought I could do that, but oh well. Okay. Oop. By the way, too, I taught high school kids for 30 years. So if you have questions tonight, you know, raise your hand or just shout them out, whatever. Try and get my attention. Um, Nothing I haven't seen before. Yes, I use the Wolverine system. Um, I use the Wolverine system just because when I was teaching school at Level and High, I had 6 full-size lathes and 10 midi lathes, and so every couple of days I'd be sharpening tools, and I just wanted to have a whole pile of gouges, sharpen those, whole pile of these, sharpen those, and be done. If you can sharpen full freehand and all that, more power to you. I like the repeatability of using the jig, whatever. Yeah, I have my leg set at the top of the 3rd notch or something like that. I think I use a 2-inch setback on mine. Some people use 1.75 inches, some use 1.7 inches, whatever. Oops, could have made this a little smaller, but it'll work. Now, one thing when you're turning, and especially for some of you guys who took those big logs that were back in the back of the room today, do not let one couple of mistakes that a lot of beginning turners make is, number one, they let the size of the wood determine the size of the turning. Don't do that. It's only wood. Okay, you can get more. Just because you have a piece that's 8 inches long, if it's only 3 inches in diameter, don't make a 3x8 piece, probably, because it's probably not going to look proportionate. It's not going to look well. Okay. Don't be afraid to waste some wood. Okay. Also, the second thing is, especially if you're doing bowls or platter turning, don't let the size of your chuck determine the base of your bowl. Okay. If I'm turning one of my little 7-inch bowls that I used to do in demos like this, a 2-inch base on that probably wouldn't look that bad. But if you're doing a 10-inch bowl, you don't want to have a 2-inch base. Either get another set of jaws or redesign the bowl so you can change that afterwards. I'm like I said, I'm kind of a tool junkie at home. I have quite a few chucks. On my small chucks, I have 1/2 inch, 1 inch, 2 inch, 2 of those, and a 4 inch. On my big chucks, I have 2.5, 3, 4, 5, and 6 inch. So depending on what I'm turning, it's what I set my chucks for. Okay. We're a little wavering here. So the first thing we're going to do is square up my block of wood. I'm cutting across end grain, but I'm rubbing my bevel, so I'm not worried about it digging in. I'm not worried about tear out. Um, I know I'm getting a nice smooth cut. This is sycamore. Is that me? No. We're going to say, knowing this size of piece of wood, whatever, we're going to say about there, maybe is going to be the bottom of our piece. and that makes this my largest diameter with the golden mean rule and all that kind of stuff. I used to make a golden mean calipers, and then Trent Bosch came to me one day. He goes, we're making one of those now too. Is that going to really irritate you? Because at symposiums, I typically help out Trent sell his stuff and all that. And I go, no, I said, please do, because I said they're kind of a pain in the butt for me to make anyway. So, so he makes one now, but some people 1/3, 2/3. I go, some people go 2/5, 3/5. I go 0.62 times my total. So I'm a little bit of a math nerd, but okay. I'm a visual person. I do like targets to aim at. That's why I'm going to use parting tool. I'm not going to make it real small because we still have to hollow this out. I shortened it up a little bit because it was looking a little too long and skinny. Um, a little bit of a hump right there. Okay. Say what? Um, you can look at a lot of mine. I do mimic a lot the Southwest Indian pottery just because I like that shape and form. But taller ones, I have that one taller one there too and stuff too. So a lot of it, in my opinion, any wood turning is don't try and do somebody else's shape or form. Do what comes from your heart, from your mind, because if you're doing something that you're familiar with or enjoy the looks of or whatever, it's going to be easier for you to make that tool follow that direction and all that kind of thing. If you're trying to copy somebody else's because, oh, they're doing really good, selling a whole lot of them and all that kind of stuff, it's hard to get the mind and the hands to work together to do something that you don't really feel comfortable doing in the first place. So um, I will admit my pieces are definitely influenced. Luckily, um, in the early 90s, I, 1990s, I was able to take a class with David Ellsworth, uh, and a lot of his influence is on my shapes. I've also taken workshops or classes with Trent Bosch and with David Nipman and Mike Mahoney, and so their shapes are similar to what I like anyway, and you can see their influence on the shapes. Um, but I think you have to enjoy what it is you're turning, or else you're not going to do a very good job on it. I still have the cross marks from my live center here on the end. So I'm going to have to take a little bit more of this off. To get rid of those. And because of that, I'm going to have to reshape the top of this a little bit. And David Ellsworth and I, we actually both share the same birthday. We're both born on 25th of June. Except David is actually 10 years ahead of me. He was born 10 years before me. A couple of years ago at the AW, we were talking about that because ironically, we were born in hospitals about 40 miles apart because I'm originally from Iowa and he was actually born in Iowa City because his dad was working at the university, at University of Iowa. And we were talking about having the same birthday, and I said, except David's 10 years older than I am. Well, his wife Wendy was with us, and Wendy goes, "Are you sure, Doug? Because your hair is a lot whiter than David's is." I said, she goes, "Why is that?" I said, "That's because when we were growing up," I said, "David decided to become a woodturner. I decided to become a school teacher." I said, "I've earned every one of these white hairs." She goes, "Yeah, probably." Yeah. That shape's not too bad. I think we're pretty happy with it. Um, there's a little bit that I could sand out. I don't particularly like sanding much, so I try not to have to sand, but we'll do a little bit. When you are sanding anything, slow your lathe down, okay? Um, typically around 700 or something like that. If you try and sand with the going too fast, number one, it heats up the sandpaper, which tends to heat up your fingers, whatever. If you're turning a really like oily exotic wood like cocobolo or ebony, whatever, it'll heat check and crack the piece of wood and all that kind of stuff. So turn your speed down a little bit. Um, Another story, I'll tell you a few stories. When David Nittman passed away, unfortunately, a bunch of us were helping Cindy clean out their shop in Boulder because she was moving to Erie into a smaller shop. And there was like I grabbed this one box and it was a full size, one of those paper boxes, and it was full of sandpaper, sheets and discs and pads and everything else and all kinds of grits, of sandpaper. And I've known Cindy for a long time too, so um, so I can tell this story. Um, but I asked her, I said, "Cindy, where do you want this? Is this go in your truck or where do you want it and stuff?" She looks at it, she goes, why don't you just go ahead and take that home, Doug, and all that. And I said, "There's a lot of sandpaper in here and all that." And she looks at it, she goes, "I never sand below 400 grit, so go ahead and take it." Like, and if you know Cindy, Cindy's got kind of a dry sense of humor, and she said that with totally straight face. It's like, okay, I do, you know. So I took it and used it and for a long, long time. Yeah, I don't really like sanding much. That's why I started doing hollow forms. It cut my sanding time in half. So I never sand the inside of hollow forms. Um, that's also why when I'm doing basket illusion now, when I'm doing my platters, I typically never sand them until after I burn them and all that kind of stuff. And then the sanding literally takes me about 30 seconds and I'm done. We're going to say that's enough. We are going to do a little beading on this now. And we're going to go ahead and sharing kind. The scraping ones, if you're just getting into it, um, the sorby ones, which are the scraping ones, are easier to use because all you do with it is lay it on your tool rest like so and push it into the wood. Now, and if you want to watch, like I said, my first video is on the scraping style cutters. Second one's on the shear style. When I use the scraping style, basically, when I'm doing my first cut, I have the tool fairly horizontal because all I'm trying to do is push those tips in to mark where the beads are going to go. And then people always look at my platters and stuff. They go, how do you get those so perfect and so even and all that? Well, if I push this in like so, when I go to move it, this right tip is going to go in the valley that the left tip just made. And I'm just going to keep working my way down the hill or whatever the case may be. Okay. I do all my beading in 3 steps. Okay. Some people try and get it all done at once because they're in a hurry, whatever. A guy I work with, a woodcraft, trying to do some basket illusion, and oh, I don't know why I'm getting so much torn grain. Are you doing it in 3 steps? No, I just want to do it. I do it in 3 steps. That way I can get a smoother cut. My first step with the scraping tool, I start with the tool about flat. My second time, when I try and go deeper, I actually have it tipped up at about 15 or 20 degree angle like so. And then when I'm doing my third cut, my final cut, I typically have my tool rest a little above center, and then I have it like this, about 30 degrees. Now, what that does in my mind, I don't know if it's right or not, in my mind, now it's turned into a negative rake scraper. So I'm going to get a smoother surface. Okay. These work really good on really hard woods. Hard maple, these are fine. Work great. Some cherry, some, hickory, that kind of thing. They fall off a little bit on softer woods like aspen and stuff like that, or on woods that have really wide grain like ash and red oak and stuff like that. The shearing style tools work better on more woods than do the scrapers. Now, when I'm using this tool, I'm going to do it exactly the opposite. When I come in here for my first cut, I can have my tool rest a little bit below center. I'm going to start my first cut with the handle dropped way down like so. Okay? Because now I'm piercing it and shearing it and whatever. My second cut, I'm going to raise my handle up to about 15 degrees. And then my final cut, I have my handle almost horizontal. So I do it opposite, depending on what I'm using for a tool. Good question. Okay. What I'm doing is I'm starting out where that major diameter should be, that golden mean, the breaking point and all that, which looks like it's about right there. I'm going to come up here Okay. I'm doing an odd number of beads because if I want a diamond shape design, I need an odd number of beads sideways too. So I'm going to raise my tool rest up just a little. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise my handle a little bit. And the second time, I'm kind of moving it up and down a little bit more than I did the first time. Okay. Now the third pass, I may raise my tool rest up just a shade more. And now what I'm going to do, now what I'm trying to do is refine the shape of the bead. And so now I'm kind of moving it more side to side than I am up and down. Occasionally I'll mix a little up and down in there anyway. Take a look at them. Make sure they're kind of round. They're not bad. They could maybe be a little rounder. We'll go a little rounder. People ask how I know when they get round enough, whatever. There's a couple ways you can do that. What I do, and it didn't really work on this wood, but like if I'm doing maple or if I'm doing cherry, whatever, I can look at the bead and it'll change color. There'll be the flat spot on top will be typically a darker color, and as I make the bead go better and better, it disappears. When it disappears, then I'm done. Some woods it's actually lighter, but it's a different color, and when it disappears, then you can kind of quit. I'm doing some stands for my platters, and I'm turning knobs out of Delrin, which is a really hard plastic, and I'm using that 3/8 Carter beating tool with it, and I have that in there, and I just start working that sucker in, and when it comes to an end, then I quit, and it's round. Okay. Yes, I do 90%, 95% of my beating with an 1/8 inch beating tool. That, all those little ones up there, I think, are 1/8 inch beads. That's what this one is. That 15-inch platter, 16-inch platter, whatever those floating around, that's also an 1/8 inch beating tool. Um, I think the 1/8 inch, all in all, looks as good as any. Um, Keep in mind, well, on flat work and hollow form work. Now, if you're doing spindle work, then the bigger ones come in handy because you can bead, do some beading on a spindle piece, whatever. But on flat work and hollow forms, um, I do have a piece, I didn't bring it, where I kind of experimented. I did it layered like Chaco Canyon architecture. It's a piece of mesquite and all that. And I've got some 5/16 beads on it and some 1/8 inch and some 3/8 and stuff to look like layers of stone. But all in all, I stick with the 1/8 inch. Yeah. Now we're going to do a little burning. Let me turn this up a little more. I'm just using some wire burners from Craft Supplies. A good friend of mine, Kip Christensen, his kids make these. Well, they used to. I think Kip's probably making them now because the kids are pretty well left home. But they come in different sizes, different diameters, and all that. You can make your own. I've got some at home that are made out of like 025 welding wire and all that kind of stuff. Put handles on them. Do not just try and hang on to that wire. If it catches or whatever, it'll cut your finger right off. So, yes. Huh. Why? Because the wire won't fit in there, will it? Good question. I use, whoop, and I probably have a full piece of it somewhere. What does this look like? Countertop material, okay? Ironically, don't use Formica. Formica's a little thicker, and it doesn't work as good. It doesn't fit in the slots as well. This is actually Wilson art. It's a little thinner. I still take it to my disc sander, and I feather the edges. There's a guy in Atlanta, Georgia, Harvey Meyer, who does a lot of basket illusion and stuff too. Actually, I haven't seen Harvey doing much lately, but he was doing a lot of it. Well, he would actually run these pieces through his thickness sander because he wanted to get them at 0.026 or something like that. And it's like, seriously? I take it to my disc sander and do that. I go to my local Home Depot or Lowe's and go to the kitchen area, and it's like, can we help you, sir? No, I'm just looking. You have samples for countertop material? Yes, we do. It's over there. It's like, okay. Put a few in my pocket and walk out the door. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Oh, actually, it does matter. The lighter colored ones or the really dark ones show up better when you drop them in a pile of chips. If you get the tan ones, they're hard to find. So, yeah. Okay. Do I what? I hold on to them. I hold on to them. Yeah. In fact, give me one of those right now. Yeah. They're not selling them yet. They're gonna unleash them to the public at AAW. I do have a whole bunch of leftover D-Way ones um, that I need to start selling and get rid of before I start actually selling Carter and Son ones. But yeah, these aren't available yet to the public, but they will be soon. Okay, if I'm using one of these, I have my tool rest up pretty close. I have my speed pretty high. Actually, let's do one more bead. One there. Also, when I'm beading, I want to have my tool perpendicular to the surface of the wood. So when I'm doing this bead on top, I'm coming in at this angle. When I'm doing this one on the bottom, I'm coming in at this angle. Okay. So now I just take this like so. That's it. 45 minutes. Okay. Say what? I like running it forward and I like setting it on the tool rest. That way I'm sure it's secure. I have seen people that'll get this out of the way and just hold it up against there. And then, then you could like lay it on top or something if you wanted to, whatever. I just like having the security of that tool rest. Just to give me extra support, like so. Okay. Okay, we are going to drill a hole in here. A lot of ways to drill holes. You can put drill in a drill chuck like so by hand. You can put it, you can take it over to a drill press if you want, whatever. Um, you can put a drill chuck, put it in a drill chuck, put it in your tailstock, do it that way, whatever. To be honest, when I'm doing bowls and hollow forms, I actually prefer twist bits over um, brad point bits. The brad point bits find the center better and all that kind of stuff, but especially this one, we're going to pass this one around. This one, the tip extends well over an eighth of an inch past where the bottom of the bit is. So we have at Woodcraft, we have a little small bowl, and I can't remember whether Cindy Drozda turned it or if Ashley Hart turned it, and it doesn't really matter. But all that matters is both of those are very accomplished turners. And if you look really close and hold it up to the light, there's a little tiny pinhole in the very bottom of it because the brad point bit went a little bit further than what they anticipated. Okay. That's why if I'm drilling and it's going to be close, like a thin bottom, whatever, I kind of stay away from those. Another way to get around that is one like this that has the number 2 Morse taper on it, fits right in the tailstock and all that. And this one we're going to use. So we'll just pass these two around so you can see the difference between a twist bit and an extreme. Yeah, you can get them. Craft Supplies sells them, or a metalworking supply place kind of thing. I keep reaching around like this on my Vic mark, but that's all right. Oh, first thing I'm going to do is figure out how deep we're going to go. Probably about there. Hey, there happens to be a pencil mark right there. We're going to darken that up a little. Or I could use a Sharpie if I had one. Oh, wait. I have something similar. Boom. Okay, good enough. Again, when you're drilling, regulate your speed the same as if you're on a drill press. With a 1/2 inch bit, it's not a big deal, but if, people always say, oh, if I'm making mugs, can I use a 3-inch Forstner bit to drill out that hole for them? You can. It's not cheating, but don't try and, number one, don't try and do it at 1200 RPM or 2000 RPM, and also don't try and do it all at once. If somebody wants to use the 3-inch Forstner bit, I said you need to buy a 1-inch and a 2-inch first, drill the 1-inch hole, then do the 2-inch hole, then do the 3-inch hole. And when you're drilling, have your speed at the same speed you'd be on a drill press. Okay. Oh, I kind of lost track of my line, but I think that's about where we were. Ooh, okay. Yeah, that'll work. A little deep, but what the heck? Take the drill bits out. Take your live centers out. If you're ever turning and you bump your elbow into one of those, it's not enjoyable. Okay. I work on a short bed lathe. My tailstock gets in the way a lot, but I like having a short bed lathe because I'm kind of short, and that way I'm not, reaching clear like this to do a hollow form. That's why I'm looking into getting a swing away for my Vic marks, but I don't like the Vic mark swing aways. Um, so, but we'll be okay here. We have sawdust in there. At home, I have my air hose hangs right here, so I can blast that out. What we're going to be using tonight in these primitive demonstration conditions is a special tool available at your local Walmart or grocery store, a bendy straw. There are rules involved in using a bendy straw. Okay. Rule number one, blow, don't suck. Okay. Rule number two, short end goes in the hole, long end goes in your mouth. That way you're not like this, blowing it right into your eyes. Okay. So now Laurent Niclot, he made this little beauty here, and he even has engraved on here, etched on here. This is the Niclot mini air compressor. This is the world's smallest air compressor, and it works okay too. So if you want to get one of Laurent's, you can. Okay, we're going to start hollowing this out. The key is when hollowing is use a straight tool as much as you can. Okay, straight tools are easier to operate. They're easier to use. They don't grab and all that kind of stuff. So use a straight tool. I don't care whether it's something like this. This is one that I made at one point in time 25 years ago, or whether it's a bigger one, whatever. I mean, here's just a 3/8 round nose scraper. This is an old Richard Raffin. Yes. Oh, hey, we got a camera, don't we? There we go. Yeah. This one is one that I made, a piece of cold rolled steel, hole drilled in the end, a high speed steel tip super glued in. All of Trent Bosch's tools, the tips are super glued in. In 30 years of doing hollow forms, I've lost maybe 2 tips on the inside of hollow forms. They just don't come out until you want them to, and then all you do is you take a little micro torch or mini torch, heat them up. You'll actually hear the super glue pop, and you pull the tip out with the pliers, please, not fingers. Clean out the hole, put a new tip in, and they're good forever. Let's see. Yeah, let me get one of these. Here's a little different one. This one's just got a, I don't know, it's all one piece. Oh, we'll pass this one around then so you can see that. Okay, our first step on doing hollow forms is we want to expand our drill hole, whatever size it was, to the hole that we want our opening to be. Okay, step one. We want our tool to be at the center point. We're pretty close. I'm going down until I feel that drill hole Then I'm going about a 1/4 inch down into that drill hole and then forcing it to the outside and widen out that hole. Um, I don't know. Let me look. Yeah, okay, I was faster than that. That's at 940. That kind of sounds and feels pretty good. Step two is um, we'll pass this around as well. We did step one, which is drilling our hole. We did step two, which is expanding that hole to the open size. Step three is we're going to work this top shoulder a little. Step four is we're going to work the bottom of this a little bit. Then step five, we're going to come and do that. Step six, we're going to do that. This is Trent Bosch posts this on all of his stuff and all that kind of stuff. And I will say that I took it directly from him. When I was in grad school in research class, they taught us that if you copy from one source, that's called plagiarism. If you copy several sources, that's called research. So I know it. I know it. Yeah. And to be honest, he simplified that too. About 20 years ago, that used to be 8 steps, I think, 8 or 10. And now he's narrowed it down to 6. And the easier you can make it, the better. So what I'm going to do, instead of coming straight in, that's pretty well done with step 3. Yeah, if you want to take pictures of that, whatever, feel free. Like I said, I borrowed it. You can borrow it from me. Now we're going to come down here. I'm still feeling that drill hole. Now I'm kind of blending 3 and 4 together there to take that down. Um, okay. Now, just for the heck of it, even though we're not close, we'll check what our thickness is. May I offer a suggestion to your club? One thing, I did a workshop demo at a club in Bentonville, Arkansas and stuff. They have a clock that runs backwards. So they started at like 1:30, whatever, and it ticks down. So whenever you look, 28 minutes left or 20 minutes left. It's really, it was a nice, yeah. There's just, we're like a 1/2 inch thick, so we're still good. Now, sometimes I might have waited and done my hollow or the beading when I was at this stage, about a 1/2 inch thick, because you hate to bead something and then blow it apart. But uh, I keep in mind number one rule of wood turning: wood turners never make mistakes. We just come up with new design opportunities. And rule number two: no wood turning has ever been screwed up enough that it can't go in the chimney or the wood stove. And one thing you'll find out too, whether you're doing hollow forms or bowl turnings, whatever, a narrower tool will take out more wood than a wider tool. You know, if I had an inch and a half round nose doing a bowl, I could take out more wood with this than I can with the wider one. It's going to leave you a rougher surface, but you have to be aware of that so you don't go, I didn't want this, I wanted this. I like the bendy straws. I use my air compressor, yeah, mostly. Okay, we're getting close enough that we can switch to um, the curve tools now, probably. Yeah, we're about 3/8 ish or so. Okay, we're going to use this one. I'm going to pass this one around. The tool was actually a Kelton tool from McNaughton, Kel McNaughton system. I think I got it a long time ago. But the handle is one that I made, a three-corner handle, because when you're grabbing it, the tool like this, I can feel that ridge right at the top of my hand, and that's the shape of your grip anyway, is triangular. It's not round, but I know exactly where the tip of that tool is as opposed to being on a round tool. So this one here, and doing triangular handles is really easy. You just do it on three centers. So pass that around too. Now, what I need to do is I can't just stick this tool in there. What's going to happen? Going to do this, okay? Never put the bent part of the tool over the tool rest. Back it up a little bit so that the straight edge of the tool is on the tool rest. Now, I will say on little tiny hollow forms like this, you can cheat a little and you can get by with it a little more than you can on a big one. A big one, it goes like that, and then your piece ends up in pieces. When you're doing hollow forms, and if you go through the sides of them and blow them up, which happens once in a while, generally it's either right up here where the transition is from the top to the sides, or it's down here where the transition is from the bottom to the sides. Okay, so be wary when you're working in those areas. How many of you are really silently, secretly hoping that I blow this thing up? That's why I have spares. Okay, quarter inch, quarter inch, 3/16. We're getting there. Whoop. Yep. And a lot of it is just hype. A lot of it too is um, years ago, the secret to doing a good hollow form is the bottom had to be smaller than the opening at top. Well, you guys had Kevin uh, do hollow forms last month, as did we, and all that. When you're making an opening this big, you can't have the base smaller than that, or else it's going to tip over. And it's kind of the same thing with the wall thickness. You know, if you can't get your finger in there, what difference does it make? You know, and even if you can get your finger in there, I have I have a collection of Southwest pottery. Okay, my wife and I, we have probably, I don't know, 70 pieces of pottery. On the inside of some of the pots, they're not perfectly smooth. You see ripples and whatever. If you talk to the artists, if you talk to the people down there, they call that the fingerprint of the artist. That, you know, it's their fingerprints on that piece. When I'm doing bigger hollow forms like that, or bigger still and all this kind of stuff, I never sand the inside of them. I will use a shear scraper and try and get a smooth, take out ridges and humps and bumps and all that. But I don't really care that it's not perfectly smooth, because that's my fingerprint. That's the fingerprint of the artist in my mind. And that's sort of the you know, I guess your question, does it all have to be equal thickness and all that? I guess my answer to that would be, theoretically, if it gets thicker, have it thicker on the bottom so that it stands up. You don't want to have the bottom, an eighth of an inch thick, and have the top, a half inch thick, because then as soon as somebody sneezes, the thing falls over. But if you have the bottom, half inch thick, and the top an eighth of an inch thick, who cares? I mean, it now part of the OCD. I mean, people people ask me, I when I've done shows and stuff with my basket illusion, I've had, usually every year somebody comes, excuse me, but have you ever been diagnosed with OCD? I go, I would have to go to a doctor to find that out now, wouldn't I? And no, I'm not going to. If I was really OCD, then it'd be CDO, because then it'd be in alphabetical order. So we're going to say that that is good enough. Okay. I'm going to clean up this bottom a little bit, and then we're going to show you how the. Now I'm gonna measure the bottom of this. There's several ways to do it again. And first of all, I have never been a wood turner that will tell any group of people that I'm working with that my way is the only way to do anything, because there isn't. I mean, Raleigh does stuff different than I do. You know, people do things different. So what? As long as you end up with, a final project or something that you're happy with. When I'm doing my basket illusion pieces, not necessarily happy with 100% of them either, because colors didn't work out right or something, or the design. But then I'll do a show and somebody go, "Oh, I love that piece. Can I have that piece?" Yeah, you can have that piece. Very seldom when I do shows is my favorite piece the first one that sells. Because everybody has their own opinion on what's good and what's not. Okay, there's how deep we are. Here's where that takes us. Ooh, we'll make it work somehow. Or, yeah, that means we need to go down to here. Okay. Whew. Okay. Pencil. Another way. Yeah, not lying to me. Okay. That's why I brought spares. I'm going to remark where the bottom of this is now, which is going to be down about here. I am going to get out a little smaller gouge. Ooh. We're going to quit there for a minute because I want to show you how I decide to draw the lines on these. And that is using the incredible Schneiter DS index system, which includes an index plate, which includes the pointer system. These are all technical terms, so bed's not as thick on this as it is on my Powermatic. And let's see, this is about 3 inches in diameter, roughly. Yeah. What we're going to do, can't use this. What are you thinking? In my pencil rest. This is designed for doing platters and stuff. I put it like this so I can do the inside of the platter and the outside of the platter at the same time. But it does work on hollow forms as well. I want this at the center most of the time. We're going to move this in. This thing goes from 48, 48, 60, 72, 96, 120, 144, 180, 192. Typically what I tell people is I recommend that they go about 10 times the diameter for the number of divisions. Like that platter going around has 180, I think, and it's like 16 inches in diameter. That piece has probably 72. We're going to go 36, and I don't have a 36, but I do have a 72. So we're going to go out here to the 72 row of 72 holes, and we will use every other one. Ooh, those are too close. We're going to come back here and go to 30 holes. Just going to work that way. Okay. Oops. Oh, that's why I didn't skip one. It'll still work. Oh, now I also one time I was doing a demo on hollow forms, and when I was working on the inside of the piece, um, I happened to look up in my crowd, and the people in the front row, their eyes were about this big, and it's like, what? What's going on? They go, you had your eyes closed. I go, what? They go, when you were hollowing that out, you had your eyes closed, which I tend to do. I'll just, do this and all that. And it's like, well, could you see the tool when I was doing the hollowing? They go, no. And I said, neither could I. So, so, so what difference does it make? But they go, well, how are you running that? And you go by feel and you go by sound and you go by touch. Um, Now, I will admit, I do have the Trent Bosch visualizer for when I'm doing my larger hollow forms, um, where I can look at the TV screen and tell exactly how thick I'm getting and whatever. Okay, almost around like so. Okay, so we got our lines drawn like so. I'm going to take this out of the chuck. So what I need to do is I need to mark to put it back in the chuck. Now, when I was learning how to do this, Ellsworth told us always mark jaw number one. And it's like, okay, there must be a reason for that. I go, no, it's just the one I use. Well, had I known that, I probably would have picked number four, because number four would be my favorite number, because I was the fourth child of four. I saved the best till last, but um, but mark a jaw, either one or two or three or four, whatever, so that when you go to put it back in, it goes back in that same spot. Okay. Um, so now what I would do would be to burn this, and oop, I use razor tip wood burners. There's others on the market. They're all good, or they're all pretty good. And I do my burning. People ask me all the time, they go, why don't you burn it while it's on the lathe? Why don't you take the burning pen and just burn it while it's on the lathe? And I could do that, but to be honest, I don't like standing on concrete for like on one of my platters. It may take 6 hours to burn all those lines. I don't want to be standing up here with my burning pen doing this all day long. I go in my living room, in my recliner, kick it back. I have a LED light over my shoulder. My wife's over on the couch next to me. We're watching TV. She enjoys the smell of wood smoke. Plus, I don't burn it that hot that I'm making much smoke anyway, and it's just easier and more enjoyable and whatever. Now, the pen I use, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can use what's called a beading pen, which looks like this one. Let me get it. There we go, kind of. It's a U-shaped little tip on there that fits right over the beads, and you can do it. The problem being is on that platter that's going around, actually a platter that I just posted on Instagram with the man in the maze pattern, that one has 27,000 little tiny rectangles. If I were doing 27,000 little marks like this, it would drive me nuts. Plus the fact that when I did try and use this to go down the row, I could never keep them straight and all that kind of stuff. So what I use instead is this pen here, which is a heavy duty medium spear tip. I'll leave it in the case so you can see what the number is. I get these from Tree Line in Provo, Utah. Because with these, I just get it on the line and I use the blade of it, not the tip of it, and I can just draw and I can do straight lines a lot straighter than I could with that little tiny tip. And it takes a third as long or a fourth as long. Okay. Now, one thing I do though is I don't try and burn every line. Let me turn this on. We have power. That's a good thing. Now we have power. What I do when I'm burning lines, I sit back in my recliner like so, with my elbows like so, and all that kind of stuff. Really comfortable. Need a little hotter. And people always go, "Oh, wait, are you worried about setting off the smoke alarm?" No, because I'm not putting out that much smoke. I don't want to char my wood. What I do, is the camera seeing me? Yeah, it is. Okay. I skip I skip 3 lines, so I'm doing every 4th line. The reason being is, like if I'm doing a platter, like that one that was floating around, that has 180 divisions in it, if I were to do every line one at a time, 180 of those to get around, I would go nuts by the time I got to the other side. This way, it only takes me literally a fourth as long to get back to the starting point. And so I feel better about myself. And besides, if you notice on that platter, when you get to the center of it, half of the lines don't go all the way to the center because it would get too crowded if they did and all that. So what I do is I do every 4th line like so. Then when I get around, then I do the one in between like so. And do the next one. Let me crank this up one more number. Right now, with this burner, it says 47. I have, this is my 3rd razor tip burner. I had the original, the S10, I think it's called, that has a single outlet. And except it kind of me, the light came on, but nobody kind of thing. And so I got the dual plug-in one, and that still works. And I do have it at home, and I take it when I'm doing stuff. But then this one, my wife, now I'm done with every other one. And so now I'm going to do the final one and get these done. This is like the SL3. Thing I like about it is it has 2 outlets. You can only use one at a time, but whatever you set the heat for on one, when you come back to it, actually when I get done with these lines, we'll pull it up here and show you what I'm talking about. It retains that same setting, so you don't have to go, wait a second, what did I burn those at before, you know? Harder woods are going to take a higher setting. But you can see I'm not really making a lot of smoke. And in the summertime, we'll have our ceiling fan on anyway. Yeah. Yes. Yes. I, oh, okay. Yeah, I'm just doing from top to bottom. Where are we at? Right here. Yes. Yeah. Yep. Now, when I'm doing a big platter, I used to teach, one thing I taught when I was teaching, I also taught drafting classes. And so at the end of every semester or every year, I'd clean out the drawers and there'd just be a ton of drafting pencils. I like drafting pencils better when I'm doing like a big platter because they're harder lead and I don't have to sharpen them as often. I'll use like 2/8 or 3/8. On this little one here, I just used a regular number 2 pencil, and number 2 pencil is actually an HB pencil, which means it's a kind of moderately soft pencil. It's not real soft, but kind of. Okay, so we are all the way around. Let me pull this up here. Let me shut this off. Oop, guess we can't reach. Okay, how many? 5? Wow. Okay, but what I can do is that when I scroll this from plug-in to plug-in, it'll go back to whatever setting that was on for that thing. Ready? There's that one. Oh, when I'm signing pieces, it depends whether, huh, people always ask me, how do you sign your name so small and stuff? Um, thought I had it. Huh, I brought one somewhere, but I don't know where it's at. So we'll pass this one around anyway. This is a signing tip or writing tip or whatever they call it. It's actually an 8 millimeter ball tip. Oh, it's a very, very small ball tip, basically, is what it is. What we're going to do here, I'm going to get this out since I'm running out of time. We're going to put one on that's burned, okay? Right here. You feel that one coming around. There's a little burr on there from the burn, okay? Leaves it a little rough. So what we're going to do now is sand those burrs off. And to do that, here's my sandpaper. These are the Festool squares. I typically don't use the 180. I'm going to start off reverse. Yeah. Actually, this is 240. 320. 400. Shut it off. Blow it off. Put it back in forward. 500. 600. 800. Blow it off. Shut it off. Reverse it. 1,000. 1,500. Okay? Blow it off. We're done. I wouldn't have to go that fine, but the finer I go, the longer my pens last and don't wear out, and the tips get all fuzzy and stuff. We'll pass these around. I use Faber-Castell Pit Artist pen brushes. They're a fine tip brush tip pen, and the tips are reversible. When they get fuzzy, I take a needle nose pliers, pull it out, flip it around, shove it back in. I've used others. I've used Copic. I've used Pigma. I've used Prismacolor. I've used pretty much all of them. These are an India ink that's UV protected, color fast, all the good stuff. And I just like the way they work. I like the way they last. And I like the way that they, ouch, don't run. Okay. What's going the wrong way? There we go. Okay, I got a little nubbin on there. I take my rotary tool, and grind that off. Then depending on the size of the base, I'll have a little 1 inch disc and I'll press, and sand it off a little better. Or this is a new purchase for me. Just got this last week because I had a good week at the gallery. Um, actually, whew, it's a little sanding wheel. Yeah, I you get them in 3 different grits. Um, Best or not Best Tool. Who is it makes them? The Dremel. Dremel makes them. But there we go. And then I would start coloring, and I realized we're out of time. But on pieces like this, when you're just doing a band around something, you can just use regular graph paper because you're doing rectangles that go around. When you're doing something like the platter or whatever, then you end up doing circular grid paper like this. You can Google polar grid or polar graph, and it comes up with different programs. You can print these off. Like I said, I use Teach AutoCAD, and so I just made a whole bunch of these, and now I've got some on 18 by 36 sheets or 18 by 24s, and I just take them to Kinko's and make copies of the big ones when I run out. Um, but these are just patterns. I have one guy, the guy at work, who has a hard time figuring out patterns and stuff because I'm not very artistic and all that kind of stuff. I can't do that on these papers. What I tell him is same thing I'll tell you guys. Don't try and do this. Do this. Do one portion of it and then repeat it 4 times or 6 times or 8 times or whatever. Don't try and figure out, the whole thing. Now, once in a while, like my wife, love her all the time. Um, she came up with this pattern one time and said, "Hey, you should do this on a piece." It's like, "Thank you, dear." And I have done it and it has sold. So, but I'm sorry I'm running a little late. Sorry I'm keeping you guys here past your bedtimes. Um, but this will be staying with you guys, by the way. You can raffle it off at Christmas. Oh, I should sign that, shouldn't I? We'll see. Uh, Now, when the pens come around, if I'm still cleaning up, we'll sign it and give it to you guys and all that. But enjoyed it. Um, yeah, had a good time. Hope you guys did too.